Some business stories. The Nigerian Deposit Insurance Corporation says it has paid more than 34,000 depositors of microfinance banks whose licenses were recently withdrawn. The corporation gave the details of the ongoing liquidation at the sensitization seminar that held in Port Harcourt for selected senior judicial officials in the country. Senior reporter Uche Okoro reports.
When banks or other financial institutions fail or have their licenses withdrawn, it is the Nigeria Deposit Insurance Corporation that steps in to ensure that depositors do not lose their money. The Central Bank of Nigeria recently pulled the plug on about 179 microfinance banks and 4 primary mortgage institutions. As concerns grow over the fate of the investors, the NDIC says there is no cause for alarm.
We've been able to settle at least over 34,000 depositors of the microfinance banks that were whose licenses were recently revoked by the Central Bank of Nigeria. We paid over 1.1 billion 225 million to such over 34,000 depositors of the microfinance banks. As of it's still an ongoing process. You know, liquidation is not something you accomplished within a day.
Oftentimes, resolution of these matters require the court's intervention. That's the whole essence of this seminar, to see how the third arm of government can contribute more in helping the NDIC achieve its mandate. It had in attendance the president of the National Industrial Court and the Chief Judge of Rivers State, Simeon Amadi, amongst others.
We want to create more awareness of our activities and even the concept of deposit insurance in the Nigerian system generally. And to do that, you need to identify all your stakeholders, and the judiciary is obviously one of our most critical stakeholders.
We are hoping that we are going to discuss issues that touch on workforce within the financial sector, and then see how, in terms of the cases that come, we can speedily resolve them. I think that's the key essence of the seminar itself.
The task of boosting investor confidence re-emphasizes the burden placed on the judiciary to ensure speedy dispensation of justice.
I'm sure you are happy that the Supreme Court of Nigeria had a case on Monday, by Thursday delivered judgment. And that is the kind of thing we are talking about. Okay. So that people who have had their money trapped in financial institutions will not stay until they die before they get it. I've had cases in the past where people retired and they died without getting their money from Ponzi banks, and all their entitlements disappeared. This is the kind of situation we are trying to avoid.
The seminar also discussed the enforcement and execution of judgments against banks in liquidation as an important step to guaranteeing protection of investors. Uche Okoro, TVC News, Port Harcourt.
The marine and blue economy of Nigeria has the potential to attract enormous investments if impactful policies are implemented. President of the Maritime Workers Union of Nigeria, Mr. Adewale Adeyanju, emphasized the importance of cooperating to maximize the marine and blue economic potential. Ifunaya Eze reports.
The recent creation of the Ministry of Marine and Blue Economy has prompted calls for effective policies to drive the sector's growth and development. Speaking on the sidelines of the inauguration of the Mission to Seafarers Center in Lagos, the president of the Maritime Workers Union of Nigeria, Mr. Adewale Adeyanju, stressed the importance of the government prioritizing the maritime sector, considering its importance to the country's economy.
After the oil that Nigeria will be living oil, is the port. And the port now, if it's not well managed, well controlled by the investors, some of them will run away. Then what happened to the port? So, to me, with this new blue economy of a team, it's just like an old wine in a new bottle. So we should all key to this new assignment that is coming. And if the policy is okay, it's going to affect all the citizens outside there. If the port is good, you will see the faces of the people outside. If the port is not good, it's still the same citizens that are going to suffer it.
Affirming maritime workers' support for port development, he nonetheless maintained workers' welfare was paramount.
We are not coming with placard, we are supporting, but we all know what is going on now. Whatever that goes up in Nigeria doesn't come down in terms of price exchange or whatever. Dollar is now 1,000 200 and something. And some of the investors too that are investing in much business in the port, they are not making it again. So the port is like very empty for now. But I pray with the policy that the government is introducing, let them put human face.
He maintained that when properly optimized, the marine and blue economy has the capacity to generate massive revenue to the government. Ifunanya Eze, TVC News, Lagos.
The Nigerian Export Promotion Council has officially launched its export mentorship program following the success of its pilot process, which began earlier this year. The program is expected to boost non-oil exports industry's growth and enhance the country's foreign exchange earnings. Lara Folayan reports.
The Export Mentorship Program was designed by the export authorities to empower young players in the export business who grapple with growth challenges in the early stages of their operations. In the mentorship program, young starters are connected with old players who mentor them through the teething stages of the business until they become properly established. The program is one of the Export Promotion Authority's strategies aimed at driving the nation's non-oil export growth base. The thinking here is that there are still so many of Nigeria's commodities which are unexplored or underexplored. Examples are solid minerals and services.
We all know that once you talk about export or talk about revenue, everybody look at oil. But at this point in time in our history, it's important for us to focus on non-oil export. The opportunities are enormous. The opportunities are huge. We are talking about agricultural products. We are talking about commodities. If you take a peep at some of the commodities, they are a lot. Some are still untapped. Even the ones that we think are tapped, we've not fully optimized them.
The mentees are advised to make good use of the mentorship opportunity and ensure they utilize it well for the development of their businesses and by extension contribute to the nation's non-oil export earnings. The mentors are also being appreciated and asked to work towards broadening their scope of impact so other mentees can benefit.
I'm aware that this pilot phase of EMP, which commenced earlier this year with 20 participants, like I said, has ended up with 15 mentees. As the fortunate ones, I'm talking about the mentees now, as the fortunate ones who have successfully scaled through the practical experience, I urge you to get focused, work very hard, try to add value, and be the best you can be. Remember, I started by saying impossible is nothing. Whatever you set your mind to achieving, you will achieve.
Financial institutions are as well encouraged to support the growth of export businesses in Nigeria, as the Nigerian Export Promotion Council also pledges commitment to supporting the industry in line with the present administration's diversification agenda. Lara Folayan, TVC News, Abuja.
The stock market has so far stayed strong with its indices this week, giving companies opportunities to recover some losses registered in previous trades. Effiong Gekop has more.
Midweek transactions at the NGX exchange have continued to kick upward while improving the prices attached to securities. Index rose by nearly 2% at the close of the day on the back of renewed interest in its securities by fund managers. Airtel Africa was very strong in activities on the trading floor as attention centered heavily on the telecom stock. Cadbury, Charm Holding, First Bank Holding and Access Corporation all made reasonable gains at the market. It was not a good business day for NACO, Keveton Aviation, Betal Glass, CNI Leasing and Livestock Feeds as they took different levels of losses. About 11 billion naira was placed on shares and bonds traded. And outside Nigeria, many markets closed in red. The Kenyan market in Nairobi was negative due to sales pressure by investors. In Morocco, the stock markets closed negative as investors reduced risk appetite on equities. Lastly, the market in Mauritius closed downward as many investors sold holdings for cash. Effiong Gekop, TVC News, Lagos.
Asian stocks surged higher today ahead of a keenly awaited policy decision from the Federal Reserve later in the day. While the yuan was stuck near one-year lows against the dollar as Tokyo ramped up intervention warnings. MSCI's broadest index of Asian Pacific shares outside of Japan was 0.14% higher, clocking 3 straight months of losses. Japan's Nikkei was 2% higher. European stock looks set to open on a surer footing, with Eurostock 50 features up 0.34%, German DAX features up 0.37%, and FTSE features 0.27% higher. Meanwhile, China shares were up 0.14%, Hong Kong Hang Seng Index is 0.09%. Britain will host the world's first Global Artificial Intelligence Safety Summit this week to examine the risk of the fast-growing technology and kickstart an international dialogue on regulation of it. The summit will take place at Beckley's Park in southern England, where Britain's World War II code breakers worked. Organizers say there would be around 100 guests, including world leaders, tech company executives, academics, and non-profit organizations taking the lead role as they warn the risk of the rise in AI. Report says U.S. Vice President Kamala Harris, European Union President, and Chinese Tech Vice Minister and United Nations Secretary General Antonio Guterres are expected to be at the summit. Crude oil prices edged up in Asian trade today ahead of key meetings of global central banks this week, including the U.S. Federal Reserve, while the market closely watched the latest developments in Israel-Hamas conflict. U.S. West Texas Intermediate crude rose to sell at $81.75, with an upsurge of 0.90%. Brent also experienced an upward price margin of 0.86%, sell at $85.75. Bonnie Light recorded a downward price review of 0.17%, selling at $88.74. And for the OPEC basket, crude dealers are offering $91.10 with a downward price review of 0.55%. That's business news. Next is Football Tonight. Thank you for watching.